welcome to my channel, Maze's Life, where I'm terrible at managing money, at least my money, but trying to get better. So with today's video, I wanted to go over my final numbers for my 2024 spending plan. So let's get started. So I talked more in depth about my spending plan, how I created a spending plan. Spoiler alert, I got it from another YouTuber, Personal Finance with Layla, Debt Over It. I'll have her linked down below. But I talked more about this in the first video that I did, setting up this video and explaining my thought process. So now I just wanted to wrap it up. If you don't know how I set up this spreadsheet and would like to know why I did the things that I did, I will have that first video linked down below, as well as my 6-month follow-up. But the spending plan was kind of the bird's eye view of a budget. So my monthly budget broken down, or consolidated in this case, for the entire year. So I could see that in the entire year for my subscriptions, I only wanted to spend $25. I ended up spending $20. Alright. For my personal and beauty fund, I wanted to spend $2,250, but I ended up spending $2,245. Things like that. That way I could see also, okay, which months am I typically spending more money in which categories? Such as months of February and March, I typically spend more money because it's my birthday month in March, and then in February I'm trying to get ready, get my hair done and nails done for my birthday. Then I noticed that since I had a little bit of extra funds, in May I decided to purchase a whole new work wardrobe. But I also know that from April, because I had spent so much money in February and March, it was a little hard for me to come down off of spending so much, so that is why I ended up spending in April. And then consequently these other months, those are all beauty, personal related, but I can see, okay, where do I need my improvements? Where can I make some improvements, if any? I also like to use this spending plan to see, okay, do I need to create any sinking funds, or do I need to create any savings? For instance, this is my parking and work category. Well, in January I spent a lot of money because I had a large charity donation. Then in February I threw a company party, and I contributed about $80 to that company party. Should I have a separate line item here on my expenses for charities? Since I have a tithe and church expense category, but should I have another one for non-religious related charity donations? Additionally, if I know that I'm going to have parties at work every so often, should I have a sinking fund for that? Or should I get reimbursed? As you can see here, in November, I spent over $500 at work, and that was to go on a work trip that I do not yet know how to reimburse myself for. I've also noticed, by looking at these spending plans, that for the past 2 years in a row, I am charged for water twice in the month of January. That's something that I would not have noticed if it wasn't for this spending plan. Also, I can see February I had to purchase a new computer. Other than that, the rest of the month it ranges anywhere from about $95 to $110. A little bit of fluctuation. I see one at $116 and one at $94, but it is pretty consistent. However, these were some things that I could use to evaluate. There are some things that I feel that I did wrong and would like to change. So one of those is that I do a rolling budget method. I do a rolling budget method because previously I never made enough money in 1 month to cover my entire month's worth of expenses. Just the minimums: rent, utilities, food, gas, monthly minimum debt payments. I did not make enough money. This was the first year where I was able to make those monthly minimums every single month. So going forward, I want to stop doing the rolling budget method because of several things that I will point out. So my income, let's start there. This is my net income. This amount includes money that I rolled over from the previous month. So I end up double counting the money in March and then again in April. I don't credit it out in March. And so it looks as if I'm spending or making a lot more money than what I actually did. And not only am I doing that with my income, but I'm also doing it with my expenses. So my expenses were $85,000 worth of expenses, which is roughly $7,000 more than what I actually made. But if you watch my monthly debt confessions videos, my debt went down in both my loans and in my credit cards. It did not go up $7,000. But this discrepancy comes about from the rolling budget. Another way you can see where the rolling budget is messed up is there are several months, January is one of them, let me use an example, where I had less money coming in than I did going out. But I was not in the negative for January. But this is due to my rolling budget and not budgeting correctly. So there are several of you who are already familiar with the zero-based budget, who are already using the every dollar method, and are like, why would you ever use rolling budget? Well, the rolling budget is a legitimate type of budget. It is taught. I learned it first in my accounting courses that I took when I went to college, but it is a legitimate budget. However, that does not mean that I can use it effectively. Unfortunately, I do not have the skill nor the patience to use this budget effectively. Another thing that I noticed from the spending plan is my goal for the entire year was to put $35,000 in debt, or pay off $35,000 in debt. So I had that goal and I put it right here on my spending plan. And if you look here, it shows that I put over $38,000 towards debt. So you would think that I more than exceeded my goal and my expectations for my debt payoff journey this year. However, all this money that I contributed to debt, a large portion went to the interest. And nowhere here does it account for the interest that I accrued, which is an expense. Every single month I'm paying interest, and that needs to be expensed out. And that is not on my spending plan here. So I actually ended up paying only a little bit over $16,000 to the actual principal of my debt. Only about $16,000 was deducted from my overall total debt. Not $38,000, not $35,000. Even compared to the $35,000, my debt payments didn't even equate to half of what was thrown at my debt because of how high my interest rate is and how high my balances are. Even though my interest rate on my credit cards are 20-30%, 60% of my minimum payment goes towards interest. So these are things that I have learned from this spending plan, and these are some things that I want to correct and learn and grow from when I create my 2025 spending plan. And I'm hoping that from those spending plans, I am able to better budget for myself, cut spending where necessary, but then just also have a more accurate budget. Nothing about this was accurate, but it told a story of how I spend my money, and it was a good tracker. It tracked where my money went, but it did not necessarily help me budget where my money went because the budget was wrong. But it did help me track. So I am grateful for having the spending plan because of the opportunity that I had to learn from it. Alright, so I know it was a very negative video, and it is quite negative, but there was a lot to learn from this first full year of paying off debt. I have started this debt journey so many times in the past, but this is the first time where I have succeeded this much. And I honestly do think that it's the little things that I've been doing, such as the debt confessions, tracking my debt, and then this, tracking my spending. Even though it did not budget my spending well, it tracked my spending very well. So, that is it. That is the breakdown of my full, complete 2024 spending plan. Thank you for following along. If you stayed to the end of the video, I'd love to have you join this financial journey with me. So hit subscribe, click the like, and leave a comment if you would like. My next video will be out tomorrow, and if you have any advice, please leave it down below, as I would greatly appreciate it. But other than that, thank you, and until then, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.